and welcome to another episode of The Real Estate Lounge. I am your favorite Central Pennsylvania realtor, Brenton Angelo Mitchell. Not coming to you from my real estate lounge, but instead my office here at Berkshire Hathaway in Camp Hill, Pennsylvania. I want to thank you guys for stopping by another episode from this little segments that I've been doing. I have a really interesting topic here today, one that is asked to me all the time by both buyers and sellers, and that is, are we in another bubble? Stay tuned and find out. All right, now in order to find out if we are in a housing bubble, we must go back to the last housing bubble that we had and the last housing market crash back in 2006 to 2008. And we have to understand what caused that housing crash. So to kick things off, a big proponent of the 2006 to 2008 housing market crash had a lot to do with relaxed lending laws. You had lenders that were out there that weren't necessarily regulated or held to higher standards when it came to their pre-qualifications and their creditworthiness as far as lending out loans. You had a lot of mortgage lenders that were offering subprime mortgages, which are more risky loans. You have people that necessarily weren't qualified, that were able to get loans, not the greatest credit, not having to show proof of income, things like that, which really kind of started the domino effect as to where we had gotten. You had a lot of lenders that were lending out adjustable rate mortgages, which essentially are a initial lower payment that ends up ballooning up into a larger payment. Oftentimes people could handle that smaller initial payment, but as time went on and their payment grew increasingly month after month, year after year, people just weren't able to handle their mortgages anymore, which caused a lot of people to default on their loans, a lot of houses to come onto the market. But if you guys remember back to 2006 to 2008, we were going through a recession. So you had a bunch of houses by unqualified buyers that came back onto the market. So you had a high demand of houses, but you didn't have the buyers there. There were people that just couldn't financially afford it. You had people that were losing their jobs as the United States was entering into a recession. So you had a huge supply of homes, but you didn't have the demand. So what ended up happening was people that were paying, market price for their house and getting into these loans that necessarily they couldn't afford. You end up having an influx of houses and not the buyers to match it, which just drove prices down. And ended up leading into a lot of foreclosures and kind of started the downfall of the housing market. Now, fast forward to 2021, and what has changed over the last 15 years? One of the big contributing factors is going to be the lending law requirements. You have a lot more, mostly all lenders are a lot more strict on their guidelines as far as your credit worthiness, your debt to income, your verifiable income, and how much of a down payment you have. Because of the lending law requirements, you don't see unworthy people getting loans anymore. Only people that are well qualified and justifiable in their debt to income and credit worthiness are ones that are getting loans. So how is this different from 2007 to 2008? And how it is different has a lot to do with supply and demand and the lending laws. So back then there was a fear of all these homes coming on the market because of unworthy buyers that were getting loans and not able to pay them back, thus defaulting on them. Now you have a much stricter guideline for getting pre-approved for loans. So why is the housing market so crazy? And it's going to go back to supply and demand. You have a super low supply of housing inventory, but a super high amount of qualified buyers. So what is this doing? This is just causing a bidding war amongst the houses. Now, price appreciation has stayed pretty stable over the last 5 to 6 years. Comparatively, right before the crash in 2008, it was very unstable. It would bounce from 8 to 12 down to 10 up to 15% appreciation. Right now, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen a pretty steady trend around 8 to 10%, something like that, but you don't have these huge spikes in unpredictableness like you did back in 2008. So to wrap it all up, I'm going to sit here and tell you that no, this is not a housing bubble of 2008. What we are simply dealing with is a supply and demand issue. Very low amount of supply for the housing inventory and a very high amount of buyers that are pre-qualified and approved to go buy a house. That is just causing what we've been seeing here. So my hopes moving forward into the foreseeable future, I hope we still see the great amount of buyers that are pre-approved to be able to get houses, and I'm just hoping that it is getting matched with more houses coming available. You see this happen a lot of times, especially during presidential administrations changing hands. You'll see a little lull in the market as people not, unsure as to what the future might hold. And then you couple that with the coronavirus and the financial strain that's been put on our country the last year. And it's kind of a perfect storm effect that has brought us here to where we are today. So thank you for stopping by. Just wanted to give you a little bit of personal information as to what I have been seeing going on in the market, and to tell you that this is not the 2008 market. If you have any questions or need any help with buying or selling, feel free to give me a call. I appreciate you guys stopping by again, and have a great rest of your day.